Appalachia to fight the opioid crisis, or clinics in sub-Saharan Africa to give women access to health care. It's human rights lawyers in Eastern Europe, and it's civil rights lawyers here in the United States, and we've got members of parliament and state legislators, but we also have activists and journalists and people who put on community theater. You watch these young people and it will make you optimistic, because the thing that I've seen is that better story of America is alive and well. And it's in the hearts and minds of people everywhere. But we're not giving it enough of an institutional base and support, and we're not fighting for that better story enough, and these kids are willing to be on the front lines fighting for it every day. And so where my optimism comes from, it's not blind optimism. I've said before, I don't think progress goes in a straight line. I think that there are times where you take 2 steps forward and you take 1 step back. There are times where you take 1 step forward and take 2 steps back. That's been true in the United States. It's been true around the world. But if we are willing to attach ourselves to that better story in our own individual lives, in our communities, in our businesses, in our law firms, universities, in our places of worship, then I think the good will win out. And I guess the thing that when I'm talking to these young people, though, they need to hear the most is it is important to be impatient with injustice and cruelty, and there's a healthy outrage that we should be exhibiting in terms of what's currently happening both here and around the world. But if you want to deliver on change, then it's a game of addition, not subtraction, which means you have to find ways to make common ground with people who don't agree with you on everything, but agree with you on some things. And, we were talking about social media earlier. It's part of the reason why my favorite app, or I guess it wasn't an app, program, whatever it was, I don't know always the terminology, when we were running our campaign, was Meetup. You remember Meetup? So young people, you do not remember Meetup. Some older people remember it. So you could send out information on it, but then attached to it would be, let's meet up. And you didn't stay in your cocoon on your phone. The phone prompted you to then actually meet people in the real world. And the reason I loved it was you'd get like the Idahoans for Obama. We didn't send a staff to Idaho because generally it was not going to vote for a Democrat, but we wanted to encourage volunteers, so they'd self-organize. They'd send out, let's meet in a church basement, and they'd all show up. And online, it sounds like they're all the same. And they agree on everything, and, there's a certain type of person who's supporting Obama. Then they show up, and it's like you've got what looks like a former Army colonel with a buzz cut and a flannel shirt. And then you got a young black woman with a nose ring. And then you've got a mom pushing a stroller coming in because she couldn't get a babysitter. And now they've got to have a conversation that doesn't just focus on we hate the other side, or we don't like this, or we don't. Actually, they now actually have to recognize, part of being a community, part of learning from each other is even the people we agree with, we don't agree with 100% of the time. People are complicated and unique, and they have their own stories. That, I think, is a lot of what we work with our young folks, is fighting against this tendency to try to just pigeonhole everybody. And I think the left sometimes does it as much as the right, and it's part of what contributes sometimes to backlash. When the left starts being scolds and wanting absolute positions on things, and you have to agree with me on everything, as opposed to, you know what, I'm not crazy about your position on X, but man, don't you agree on Y? Well, let's work on that for a while. That, I think, is where you start seeing hope, because what ends up happening is when people actually meet and they get to know each other and then they work on a common endeavor,